Welcome. Uh-oh. Do you hear the echo?
I do hear an echo.
Pat, do you hear the echo?
The echo's awesome. We get to talk to each other, and then we get to hear each other again.
Hey, Pat. Are you there? Oh, my goodness. I hope that's not on the air.
I'm trying to talk to you for about 30 minutes, and nobody's been answering me, so whatever is going on, you're on the air.
I see. Okay. Are we doubling up on the air or no? All right, I'm going to have to turn this down a little bit so it's not going to drive us crazy. Well, good morning. We got something funky going on in our headset. We'll try to fix that during the break. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, and this is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks so much for chiming in. Joined by my side is Mr. Leo King with Beryl Engineering and Inspections.
It's a great day to be here. Adam Talley just rolled into the studio. We have a glorious guest with us this morning.
Yeah, he's not even mic'd up yet. We'll get him on in a minute. Good morning, Jenny Restrepo. She is back with Insured Title Agency. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
She's got some fun stuff to talk about for sure. If you hear the echo too, I apologize in advance.
That's okay. It's like we're in a cave getting ready to celebrate Christmas, make a campfire and stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of Christmas, I'm just going to say my dog ate an entire row of string lights, and I had to take him to the vet.
No.
Where's the joke?
Anyone want to know how he's doing?
How is your dog doing, Leo?
He's delighted.
I knew it was coming.
Dad joke of the day. Scores again. All right. Let's hop into the numbers, and then I've got some other numbers to chat about if I can handle it. I'm going to have to turn this down. All right. So the number of new listings on the air. Oh my gosh.
So what we have here for the number of new listings, we have 600
every which way but loose over here.
I know. The echo's driving me crazy.
It's 657 new listings. We have price decreases at 784, and we basically have pendings are 662. So what we're coming into solidly right now is the Christmas season. We're coming into the second half of December. Everything's really starting to slow down. We still have slightly more pendings than we do new listings. We still have a bunch of price decreases, but everything's in a much slower state as we would expect to see as we come into the second half of December. I think we're going to have a nice, cool, easy second half of December. If you're a real estate agent, you might want to take those last 2 weeks of the year off. If you're a construction company, you're already taking the whole month off. And if you're an engineering firm, we're here for you to do the inspection so you can be ready going into January to either buy, sell, list, build, demolish, invest, any other types of adjectives I can throw out there.
Do you still see any people doing the pre-listing inspections? Do you get a lot of those?
We're getting more.
We're getting more.
Yeah, it was when the market was really hot. We didn't see the pre-listing inspections because people are like, I can throw a dog turd on the market and it'll sell
anyway.
It'll sell
And
above
it did
list.
for like twice the price.
Now people are realizing that there's more options out there. People are realizing that they want to have their house checked out. They're getting counter offers on as-is properties. So, yeah, the pre-listing inspection is making a comeback.
People are realizing that the rates are double what they were at the time you're talking about, so they don't want to pay double for, the same old.
Right, and I guess my other question, too, do you ever get, just because I see it every now and then, do you ever get anybody so you do a pre-listing inspection. You guys are pretty strict. Like, I love what you guys do because you guys are very detailed. But
well, the thing with a pre-listing inspection is it's a peer review built in. You're going to inspect a home, and then immediately, within the next couple of weeks, someone's going to check your work.
That's where I was going. Do you get a lot of people, other inspectors, refuting your work as far as, what I see, and I think, personally, sometimes I think it's a manipulation one way or another on life expectancy of a roof, right? Citizens requires 5 years. So do you guys see where you put 6 or 7 and somebody puts 4? Because I couldn't imagine that it would be, obviously, if you go right on the line at 5, that's, you're asking for trouble almost.
And it used to be 3. So there's certain tools that you can use that inspectors don't use. Hague has a tool that's a roof life expectancy tool for shingles, and you slide the tool onto the lip of the shingle, and then it can show you from granule loss at the edge of the shingles about how much more useful life it has. So if we're in a situation where we need to whip that tool out to use it in a 4-point report to show the insurance company their own engineers technique on estimating useful life of shingle, then we can do that. And that's irrefutable. The other thing that's interesting.
Well, I got a question on that. That's pretty cool. Didn't know that tool existed. Thanks for mentioning that. My other question is, obviously in some areas the roof versus others you're going to have more granular loss, right? So how do you know which shingle to put the tool on?
I would assume you go to the one that looks
The
most
worst one?
worn.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're supposed to go to the worst shingle.
Yeah, it's no different than having a 2-story house where the bottom's masonry and the top is frame. That's rated as frame every time you go off.
Oh, really?
You go off the least. Well, especially if it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you have, if it's like 33% or less, most carriers, the frame part, they'll go with the masonry. But anything over that, it's all going to be rated frame because that's the weakest point of the house.
I had no idea. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but I always thought that first frame block, second floor wood was just it's standard construction.
It is, but it's standardly considered frame. So.
Learned something new today.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to what you were saying. I had to ask about the shingle
distracted.
question because that's a valid question.
Yeah, so you really do go to the least looking good shingle. But the other thing too is since we're engineers and they're home inspectors, our license is stronger than their license. So the home inspector is not really allowed to tell you life expectancy by license. The insurance companies force home inspectors to do several things they're not allowed to do.
That's interesting.
So when we come in there and we give a 4-point report, and we have an engineering stamp on it, it's going to trump any home inspector.
Are all of your inspectors engineers?
No, but
you
everything's
certify all of
reviewed
them?
by an engineer,
yeah,
right?
well, it depends. Typically on 4 points, I wouldn't review it. We just let the home inspector do it. But if we got into a scenario where there was a conflict between us and another firm, I would review
essentially.
I would review the
higher
documents
license.
and then seal the document to dispute the tie.
I love that.
I was going to say something about that. I was thinking, I don't know. It escaped me.
By the way, you're very jolly today. For the people that can't see
am
her,
jolly.
she's all wearing all Christmas, all the stuff.
My
It's
leggings.
very
This has
festive
been a
in this
week-long thing.
place.
Just saying.
Yeah.
It's
But if
pretty
you're
cool.
on the YouTubes and the Facebooks,
A reason to go to YouTube and Facebook so you can see the
my
Christmas
pants.
leggings.
you can see her pants, you can see her shirt. She's very festive. Even I'm festive. I'm wearing a green jacket on top of a green shirt.
He looks like he's an Eskimo dressed for a snowstorm. Just saying.
It is only 70 degrees outside, so he must be freezing.
So this weekend, I guess, speaking of weather, it's worth mentioning. This weekend, we're supposed to have tropical storm-like weather. Like the rain and everything is supposed to be insane
Yes.
this weekend.
So lay that ryegrass seed tonight. That way it grows when the water comes tomorrow.
Do not do that because right now you're under watering restrictions, especially in Hillsborough County. If you put seed down and it rains on it one day, and then when you put seed down, you're supposed to water it every day. You just can't. Do not do that, listening audience. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, Adam, don't be giving back.
Seed is expensive. Like a bucket of seed is like $200.
So I want to, I
Who's your
guess,
seed guy?
before the break,
Home
I guess
Depot.
I'll run into this so we can get with Jenny and chat because she always has plenty to say and she got some good stuff to talk about. So every month, our market center, the Keller Williams Market Center, they do a whole full report on the absorption rate. So I just brought this so I didn't have to do the math. It was so much easier.
I love
But
math.
this is for November, right? And they do track it month over month. And some of the things they look at is, are those same listings in January still on the market at the end of January, right? So they're looking at some of those things, and they also do it county by county, which is pretty cool. But in Pinellas County, their absorption rate's higher. They're at a 4.3 month supply of homes.
That's getting towards balanced market.
We're getting towards the balanced market. So the total, we report a 7-day trend, right? So when we say the number of new listings on the market is 657 for 7 days in 3 counties. This is one county. Pinellas has 5,045 active homes for sale. And the number of sold homes in that same 30-day window is 1171.
That's almost a 5 times absorption
Why do you
rate.
think it's higher in Pinellas? Because they're more dense, so you would think that.
You should be able to answer this, my friend, on why I think it's higher.
Oh, because all the homes are older and they don't pass inspections, and people can't
That's
fix
why
them
I
and-
think the absorption rate is higher in Pinellas because all those
Well,
homes
the
are
insurance
older,
rates are high.
and the insurance rates are going to be
High.
higher.
Flood insurance.
Yep, there's several reasons why I think Pinellas' absorption rate is higher.
Don't blame me. I'm the middleman.
We have to look at the insurance
No,
guy
I
I'm playing.
know,
I'm just
I know.
saying. All right. So they also look at basically, and they talk about a lot of this. So from when we're having pricing conversations with the seller, we can have just a logistical conversation that makes sense, right? That they understand because we review the market data all the time. And so that's the number of total listings I gave you for Pinellas County, right? That was on the market. But the number of listings in Pinellas County that hit the market between November 1st and the end of November that were still on the market is 2,000 124. So that's a pretty significant number of those active listings that came on the market in November and are still on the market.
How does that compare to Hillsborough?
I have that information.
Glad you asked that
too.
question, Adam.
Well, let's go to Pasco because they're next on the list, shall we?
Okay.
They also look at like short sale scenarios too, which I don't think is a good topic for conversation. We're not really there yet. But Pasco County is at a 2.8 month supply of homes. I also challenged that too, and I said I also don't think that is actually correct. I think that number is a little bit higher, and the reason why is there's a lot of new builds that also get sold in Pasco that don't get reported because this is data directly from the MLS.
Basically, half of
Yeah.
54 go between here and the
Right.
19
Now,
is brand new stuff.
I don't think it's anywhere near Pinellas County's absorption rate, but I do think it's a little higher than the 2.8 month supply of homes we're reporting on this for November. Okay, so active listings coming in at 2,977, while the solds for 1 month in Pasco were 1,074. And then when we look at the number of new properties that came on the market all of November, and we're still on the market in November, 1,429. So that's pretty interesting. And they do like percentages month over month. It's pretty interesting data. You can see a lot of this is manually calculated. So it's really, we don't have to wait as long as we do when we report the Florida Realtors numbers. Okay.
And so one of the things you have to keep in mind right now, we're comparing actives to solds. We talk a lot
Correct.
about pendings on this show.
Right.
And the thing with pending is a pending listing can go back active if a deal falls through.
Which they do from time to time.
Which they do more and more when you have when you're in a balanced market and people can be choosier. When people can't be choosy, that's when more of these pendings turn into sold. But if you give people the power of choice and you give a seller with the old mindset of I'm going to charge more for the bag of dog turd, then those listings will go back on the market.
So Hillsborough, back to answer your question, Adam, and I think this is probably when we talked about the Pasco numbers and basically how I think those are probably a little off because of new construction. So Hillsborough County is coming in at 3.2 month supply of homes.
It's right in the middle.
And we'll be right back after this break.
Are we there? Oh, I can't
Barely hear it.
Hey, Pat.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection, bringing you the latest tips, tricks, news, and everything else you would need going to the Christmas season. Right now, there's a front coming in. It's from the North Pole. There's a Santa Claus on it with 8 reindeer. He should be here over the weekend, except we have a tropical front over the coast of Florida. It's a low front. It's going to bring a lot of rain tomorrow. So all those people who have holiday parties tomorrow, like half of the state of Florida, some kind of party on Saturday, you're going to probably be rained out. There's a 98% chance of rain. Now, that's not a 98% chance that it will rain. It's 98% of the area is going to get rain, which we desperately need because we're in the middle of a drought, followed by a 35% chance on Sunday. So I'm going to hunker down. I'm going to do what Jim Candori always recommends, hunker down. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to avoid Christmas. And this is just nature's way of saying don't celebrate Christmas early. Back to you, Kat.
Don't you think that this is an odd weather pattern for this time of year? To have tropical storm type winds and rain in mid-December, doesn't that seem odd to you?
So you have to think, let's take a look at this whole year, the hurricane season of the year. We had our October storm in June. Mm-hmm. So having a December storm, which isn't out of the question, that's not really surprising. I mean, we had our really powerful, we're going to cool down the earth storm, and we're going to start from the lower Caribbean by south of Cuba and go north into Florida. Mm-hmm. That happened in June. So having this storm now makes perfect sense. We've had other years, and this hasn't even really been
Is there going to be a name for this storm? Or is it not tropical cyclone
they said tropical,
in nature?
I mean, I don't know. It was in South
just
Florida.
Tropical strength, not a cyclone.
Yeah, tropical cyclone, tropical strength. It depends. I mean, I'm thinking back to the last time we had a couple of December storms where we were like halfway through the Greek alphabet. They eventually gave it a name. See, what most people don't understand is after these storms pass, they're analyzed for months, and then the NOAA, National Oceanic NOAA, NOAA.
Condition Association?
They will publish a book per storm, and it's a great book. There's one like on Ian was 200 pages, so it'll tell you about how the storm forms.
Some light reading.
Do you speed read that book?
I use it all the time and for depositions because it talks about every single weather tower that it's passing, and it'll tell you readings. So it's great for weather data. I do say it's in knots and not in miles per hour, which makes you have to convert it. But what's important to know about that is they're constantly revising things. Like they'll say, oh, there's a Category 4 storm or Category 5 or whatever. They'll revise those numbers, and a lot of times they'll revise them in the up manner. So if you had like a 150 mile an hour storm that they were saying was Category 4, when they're redoing the book and they're studying the data and all the eggheads are putting this thing together, they might say, well, it was actually Category 5. So a lot of times those storms are strengthened. Reason why I say this is we had an incident, I'd say, in 2012 where we did have storms in the December time period that they didn't name when they were happening, but they gave them a name to create one of these books.
Interesting weather facts. I didn't know.
The more you know.
Well,
If
I know.
Jim Cantori is there, you do not want to be
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
That is a good measure. If he comes to Tampa Bay, I'm like, oh no.
Don't stay.
Please, yeah.
I'm
go
more
somewhere else.
subscribed to the Waffle House rule. All right, if Waffle House is closed, then we're in trouble.
That's very scientific.
They say that the weather or the water in Tampa Bay is like pushed out a little bit. Like
Yes.
the tides are really low right now.
And that normally
Well, it's
happens.
winter because the
Not just winter.
When you have the storm events, you got to think back to Hurricane Irma now. When we had Hurricane Irma in 2017, because it was west of the state of Florida, and the way the storm is spinning counterclockwise, it pulled all the water out of the bay. So
Right.
hearing water is pulled out of the bay because we have this event happening isn't surprising.
Well, I guess let's roll through the data for Hillsborough because we were asking about that, and then we'll jump on in with Jenny. So the active listings in Hillsborough is 4,425. And for the month of November, we had 1,375 of them that sold. So we're at a 3.2 month absorption rate in Hillsborough County. And for the month of November, the number of new listings that came on the market was 1,375, and they did not sell in the month of November. So interesting data here, and there's a whole bunch of like historical data, which you'll appreciate this, Leo, going like 2017 to 2013. I mean, there's just pages and pages of data. So if any of this fascinates you and you would like it or you'd like some information, you can call or text 813-377-2775, and we'll get you some of this information. You can look at it, 813-377-2775. Interesting, huh? The absorption rates and looking at more accurate numbers for November.
That's kind of
That's
scary,
pretty
though.
accurate.
Kind of scary for someone that wants to sell their house in the second half of 2024, first half of 2025.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes down.
But I heard a rumor that, and this is a strong rumor, that we're going to see some rate decreases in 2024.
That's what they're saying. We'll see. I think maybe as
three
we
of them, supposedly.
maybe
I heard
as
two.
I mean, it's all hearsay, right? But I think a lot of that depends on the economic data, right? Like they're looking for that 2% number to control inflation. A lot of it depends on unemployment. We've talked about that. And we're also in an election year next year.
And
I think that's going to play a part of it too.
And as much as they say they don't want to influence politics and influence elections,
do.
they meddle all the time. So by decreasing the rate and increasing cash flow and making people happier, that's going to look good to the Democrat presidency going into the election. Whether or not they're related, they're not related, but it looks good to them, and people will jump on that bandwagon is a hope that they have.
Yeah, they say that political doesn't have an influence. I believe it does, but I think the other influencers are stronger, right? So if unemployment was through the roof, or if, the inflation numbers are still out and we're not anywhere near that 2%, which it has cooled, that could change things. But it's definitely going in the direction they want it to. So, because things are calming down.
The Fed is the direction they wanted to. They're just shutting our economy down. What?
No, it's not shut down, but they didn't want people to have these fire sales and drive the prices up,
They didn't want-
$50,000 in a month.
They didn't want people buying stuff for Christmas season.
No, Leo.
Who's the big? So you have to think Morley and Morley. I watched the Muppets Christmas Tale version of the story, but there were bankers.
Yeah.
They were bankers. So yeah. So
It is the best version, by the way.
It is. Have you seen that?
Yes.
It is the best version. Would you agree?
Yes, the Muppets are the best.
The Muppet Christmas Carol is by far the best.
So when Waldorf and Stadler is Morley and Morley for that sequence, they are accountants, they are bookkeepers, they are the ones controlling the reins. So you have to think the Fed's the same way. They raise the rates going into the Christmas season. They're a big Bob humbug. They won't be buying that Christmas turkey in the window and giving it to little Timmy.
So, question for you, before we dive into title, since we're still talking these numbers, what do you think would happen if they do pass that law against the big hedge funds or whatever, forcing them to sell off all their single-family homes?
I don't think they can. I don't think you can force people what to do with real estate. I think that's a strong. What's the word I'm looking for?
A slippery slope for sure.
It's more than a slippery slope. It's I feel
Is it borderline like discrimination policies? Like you can't.
Well, we have that on the bill right now,
Well, we
where
do have
Chinese
that.
citizens
Yes.
and other people, can't. But I mean, that's a whole interesting topic in itself. We could talk
It
about.
violates
But
fair housing standards.
yeah, that's interesting. I think that's a very slippery slope. But I think you can't. At the end of the day, you can't control what people do with their investments, right? And so that's what it is. And this is why I say all the time, I don't believe in rent controls either, because they have this in California, and you see things like, people living in this little beach cottage for some ridiculous amount of rent, and they are never going to move because the landlord can't kick them out. They can't raise the rent, yet the landlord has to stroke a check. They can't even sell the property. The
taxes are still going up.
Yes, the landlord has to stroke a check for all the expenses. I do not believe in rent controls at all for so many reasons. It's unfair. You can't tell people what to do with their properties. So no, I don't think that they are going to do this.
Well, I think a choice that sellers in the state of Florida have is it's not a violation of fair housing standards if you don't want to sell your property to a corporation.
Correct.
So
yeah.
If we want to deter corporations from coming in, driving up price points, buying up all the houses, you have homeowners associations that only allow for a certain amount of tenancy. There has to be a certain amount of owner-occupied properties. So these are the ways that you can affect that ability of corporations to either infiltrate your neighborhood or certain areas by having policies that don't violate anything. And, it's basically like, okay, so you can rent out your house, but not for less than 2 years. Put that in your homeowners association bylaws. Now you're deterring corporations from coming into your neighborhood without violating any standards. But
I do think the 1 to 2 year minimums before you can rent is a very good rule for HOAs to have.
Are
Certainly.
you allowed to do that, though? I thought when the residential market, not a lawyer, you could only rent for 1 year. In the commercial market, you can have 5-7 year leases. But I thought in the residential market, you can only have a 1 year lease.
No, they got rid of that. There was
Oh.
something that changed. Yeah.
Excellent.
You can also require a certain amount of ownership before you can rent it out. So if I purchase a home, I've seen it in many HOA bylaws that it says you must own this home for at least a year before you can begin to even rent it out.
All right, 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number if you want to call or text. We are going to take a break and then we'll be back. 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number if you want to connect with me, my guest. We have all sorts of stuff to talk about when we come back. We're going to continue this conversation, and then we will have some listings for you going towards the top of the hour. So stick around. This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be right back.
Man, we're flying by today. And welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, and you're have a tip of the week for you, and then some positive news for once in the homeowners market. So for the tip of the week, I do want to tell people, and this is for anybody that is with Citizens, okay? Citizens, anybody that's been with Citizens knows that there is a depopulation program that goes on where, they're trying to get you out of Citizens, right, with these other carriers. Sometimes it's good because sometimes you're going to get with a carrier that is not Citizens, and you can avoid having an assessment or anything else like that, which they've never had to do an assessment, but I promise you if we get a big storm in a high population area, like we are going to have we are probably going to have an assessment. So it is a positive thing sometimes.
The term population has never been used in a positive light.
However, there are certain carriers out there where if you're not responding to it, your rate might be double if you aren't paying attention to the thing. So,
Yes.
But the tip of the week is just because you've already had that happen and you've said, I'm going to stay with Citizens, doesn't mean it can't happen again a couple months later. I'm already seeing a second round with some people that have already had it. Right, and it does make it a little easier on me because I gave them the parameters that, hey, if it's between these numbers, call me. If it's outside of this,
Well, they can
do it yourself.
give you a choice, right? Because my
If it's
property
wi-
got moved.
if
They're
it's
like, you're no longer here.
If it's within 20% of their estimated renewal, then you don't have a choice. They're going to switch you over to somebody else. So that's just more of a tip to keep an eye out. If you're with Citizens and you receive anything from Citizens, open it up. Do not throw it away. Call your agent if you're curious. I'm an insurance agent. I'll tell you, these letters are very confusing even for me
Yes.
sometimes with how they write them. Like it's not the best thing in the world. Not written by English majors for sure.
Question: I got letters on some of my policies for my rentals, and they said if you were a commercial property, respond to this letter, or your residential respond to the letter, and I didn't respond to it because I figured it would just be a rate increase. Am I right on that?
So something else that's going out now is and this is important for you because you do have rentals. Now they're going to increase the rates on DP3s if you can't prove that it is a primary residence.
And
Okay?
what's a DP3?
DP3 is a rental property policy, okay, or your rental condos in your case, right? So if you get something that's talking about primary residence, it doesn't have to be your primary residence. It just needs to be somebody's primary residence. So if you get that, send in your annual lease, and that way you're covered.
I need your help on that because I just threw all those letters away.
Okay. Well, send me all your leases, and I'll have somebody take care of that.
So are they trying to avoid the whole Airbnb thing? Is that what that's
if
about?
you're answering the questions honestly in the first place, you shouldn't be, writing anything that would be short term. But their rules are technically they don't take anything that's 30 days or less on a rental. So if you have say a beach condo and you rent it out 3 months at a time, they're doing that. They also want to avoid homes that have a lot of when it's unoccupied for
Right.
an extended period of time.
Right.
So just anyways, all that is to say is if you're with Citizens, read your mail, don't throw it out. Now, one little quick positive news before we talk about title. There's been rumors out there, and I've already seen. Everybody's sitting down except for me. I saw a renewal with a rate decrease on it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a potential softening market coming up here in the future.
We need it. I have to tell
Maybe.
you. I had a listing appointment last week with a past client. I've sold 4 properties for these guys, and they're literally priced out of the state. But you ran a flood quote for me on this couple. So,
and honestly, that flood rate wasn't that bad.
But they're a teacher, a nurse, like that's their profession.
Right.
And they're literally getting priced out of our state. And it's so sad. I hate seeing it.
Yeah, the only way to avoid it is to buy new. Right, because those rates are still pretty affordable. Buy new, not in a flood zone, is your only answer.
Hence the absorption rate in Pinellas County.
There's really no way around it. And in that particular case, their flood insurance, was $1,500, which is that's not chump change, but compared to the other flood policies out there, that's half. Maybe even a third of what we're seeing.
Well, the problem is they're on a teacher salary, right, and a nurse's salary, and it quadrupled. Yeah. And the insurance increased, and the car insurance increased, and everything is increased.
Yeah, and flood rates are still catching up, right? There's been several congressional acts that have been passed in the past 10 years where flood has never been solvent, right? That's what happens when you have the government running what should be a private organization, right? They're not built to have profits or even have a balanced revenue. So what happened is, and you have a lot of people that, in the past, they're in X zones. They're buying flood policies for $500, and then they have a $100,000 claim because they get flooded, right? And that's why there've been a lot of mapping changes and all this other stuff. So even if you're grandfathered in, you're still going to see rate increases. It's just going to be maybe not 20, 30, 40% at a time.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, word.
Wow.
Well, but am I correct? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Ask you what it said. And they go, well, it said that our insurance went up $60 a month.
Oh, that's not horrible compared to some of the ones we're seeing.
Still
but
$720.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a Vallarta bill.
Yeah. Anyways, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, isn't a contributing factor to flood is if I have a flood policy and my property floods, I have to build it back exactly the way that it was that already flooded.
There's a 50% rule,
The FEMA
right?
50.
So like,
FEMA 50, Technical Bulletin 8.
yes. So what it really is if the damage is more than 50% of the value of the home, you have to rebuild it to new standards, new codes, as opposed to building it where it is, right? So
Right.
that's where the real cost comes in, because now, and flood cap's out at 250. And the rest of that's on you, right? There's no really other way around it. We had some people with Adelia that they didn't realize how flood kind of works, right? We do our best to explain it to them, but you really don't know till you're in that situation, and
Right.
it's.
What was the most surprising thing?
I think the two most surprising things were, one, they didn't realize that it's two separate deductibles for your building and your contents.
Yep.
And
Under the flood policy?
under the flood
Yep.
policy.
What? So
That was
what's-
one of them. The other one was, hey, my neighbor said it never floods around here. I don't want contents. Okay,
Oh.
then don't purchase contents.
Okay.
Okay, and then
On the flood policy.
and then you flood. Hey, what do I do with my couch?
Throw
Buy
it
a new
away.
one. I can't help you. You didn't purchase contents. You chose.
Oh, it got flooded. Big time.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's an island.
It's so. Well, we haven't done anything but rip out everything, so.
Great camping spot. Anyways, let's talk about title. She's been here all
Sure.
day. Let's dive into title. Enough insurance.
Well, I came.
There's some funky stuff like going on in title, some stuff you guys have been tracking, and
This is like I'm on my campaign it's called my true crime series.
I
And
love that.
it's how do you avoid becoming a victim of title fraud? Well, awareness is the first step. We've been tracking a case that originated in one of our offices where a person tried to basically sell properties to one of our investor clients where he recorded fake deeds, basically stealing the homes, then recorded fake assignments of mortgage, so double dipping on the same theft for each property, essentially trying to get the payoff on the house and the payoff on the mortgage. But our amazing title agents figured it out, saw the person allegedly misspelled her own name in her signature. So clearly, that doesn't happen. No one ever does that. And a little bit of just basic digging found out that signature was applied to that piece of paper after this person was already deceased.
Oh, wow.
So clearly not her. And we reported all of this to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department. Well, because of COVID slowing everything down, this went into their office 2018. This person was not arrested until 2023. But he was arrested.
Yay.
well,
Yay.
wait, there's more.
And then, so he was arrested back in February, and what he was charged with is scheme to defraud. It included the 6 properties that we had originally reported to Pinellas County Sheriffs. And through the process, as we know, you're innocent until proven guilty, so this has to run through the court system and the attorneys and the judges, and a judge will determine what happens. But as of October, he actually changed his plea to guilty. So he's now pled guilty to the crime of scheme to defraud. And as far as I know, as of this airing, the intention is that should he pay his restitution, he's probably going to receive just the restitution, which is money. He's going to have to pay back some money, which should eventually go to the victims. But
that's not even the whole amount that they were defrauded.
Oh, no.
That's just, I mean,
well, part of the happy silver lining of the story is that they didn't actually lose their homes because our amazing title agents did not allow this crime to go through. But as I was trying to tell this to Katrina quickly, it's if you attempt to rob a bank, but you don't get away with all of the money, did you still commit a crime? Yes.
Depends on how you did it, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure if you go in with a gun and a note,
Well, that's
and
what
then
I'm saying. But if you go in with a note and they're like, no, then and you walk out, then what?
You attempted to rob
You
a
would
bank.
still attempted to rob a bank.
Yeah. So he attempted to steal these people's title. He actually did go through with recording fake deeds, recording fake assignments of mortgages, forging signatures.
Is that wire fraud or mail fraud as well?
Well, okay, so this is the perfect question is what is it? Well, title
this
theft.
is part of the challenge. This is where she's going
Right.
with this.
Title theft is not a chargeable offense. So I think everybody at the table is like, okay, but if you record a fake deed and try to steal my house, it's a crime.
Correct.
But what is the crime? And that's where we really need our lawmakers to catch up with the criminals, because law enforcement can only enforce the laws that we have on the books. So if there's not a straightforward law to say, you know, if you steal a car, you're charged with grand theft auto. If it's a first, second, third, we have a precedent for what you're charged with, what kind of jail time you could get.
We have case law. That
Case
they can
law. We have
follow.
established
Grand theft
precedent.
homestead.
Yeah, well, I mean, fine, call it whatever you want
love
to,
that.
but call it something, make it official, put it on the books so that our law enforcement have very clear-cut guidelines, and they can say, okay, this is what happened. Well, this fits into here. We can arrest the person. We give it to the state's attorney's office. They go, okay, clearly you've now established the case that they met these parameters. This is the crime, and we can move forward, and our court system can clearly respond. But in the absence of that clear progress of what is it, what happens, state's attorneys, who are doing an amazing job, and not that anyone did not do an amazing job in this case, but they can only work with what they have in front of them. And so in this situation, the
Nobody
state's attorneys,
really ever expected anyone to steal someone else's deed to their house. I'm just saying.
well, even if
Right?
you don't expect it to happen,
It's happening. Yeah.
we
I get
train
it.
our people growing up in the game Monopoly to acquire deeds. So, I mean, we're training them to think in that mindset of
I bet you're the worst person to play Monopoly with.
anyone's the worst person to play Monopoly with. It's whoever gets certain properties and
I
builds
would
their house.
never let you be the banker. That'd be the worst game ever.
No, I run a very efficient bank when
I'm sure you
monopolize.
do. I'm sure
The
you
reason
do.
that we have written deeds and that they're recorded with the court is because for these lawful transactions, this is what we've agreed upon is the way to ensure that when the seller sells and they give up all of their home ownership rights and they transfer 100% of their home ownership rights to this new buyer, and that it's all official. So
it's
if
actually
you have
theirs to do so.
questions about this, what we're talking about, call to the station. It's-
813-377-2775. 813-377-2775.
We'll get
Text
you
title.
connected.
We'll get you hooked
We'll
up.
be right back. Stick around.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection, rounding out the top of a luxurious hour. We talked inspection, we talked storm, we talked rain, we talked Christmas, we talked title, we talked theft, we talked
Citizen
Remember.
population, we
November
talked
first.
depopulation, and we talked more theft. And we're back in the talking of the title because the title is such a riveting topic. You've got papers that are changing hands behind the scenes. So let me ask you this as a title agent.
Yeah.
Would blockchain help title?
I think so. I
Okay.
think so.
My understanding of blockchain and how people are using Bitcoin to buy properties, to me, seems very dangerous.
It's not just Bitcoin, though.
No,
Like the
it's
blockchain
like a
technology is
tracking
different
system.
from
Tracking.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, so we're talking about
Bitcoin is the currency. Blockchain is the technology that holds the data for what it's worth.
it would prevent this level of fraud because
Definitely.
everyone shares the information. So there's no you can't register with the county. It's it's completely trackable, it's completely shared, it's completely open. A lot of companies are moving to it for inventory control.
But right now, it is all written, tracked, public information. Thanks to our sunshine laws in the state of Florida, you could look up any single address and see the last recorded deed. But here's where it's all in the sunshine. So it's all in the sunshine for the criminals too. So for the people that are on the up and up, yay, we have access to all this information. And this is why, honestly, a title company should never be skipped in a real estate transaction. Because the title company, while we seem like just the boring paperwork people, the title company is the ones that ensure that you are dealing with the seller, the correct seller, all of the correct sellers, and that when you transfer hands and your buyer, you drop off your bag of money, you are actually getting what you thought you were getting. So that's why, fun fact about title, Abraham Lincoln's father lost their family farm not once but twice due to not having the proper title.
What?
It's a true story, I swear. You can look it up.
How did
She
you even
went to
find
the
that
museum.
out?
That's in the museum.
How did you even find that out?
Well, I think it was part of the inspiration for him to become an attorney, and like that, those things that happened to his family, because we're talking like back in the day when everything was like handwritten with probably with like a feather quill pen,
Yeah.
but it
And a
was
seal
still
and a stamp.
Yes,
right?
but the
Wax
thing is,
seal.
it was for real though. It was written down. I believe that the Land and Title Association was designated in the United States like in the early 1800s. So pretty soon after we tried to make all the things official, we're like, okay,
Land is important.
Land. If and the
We're going to take it. We better put a stamp on it.
We're going to take it. We better show
We're
everyone
like, this is
now.
my land now, and I put my flag
Yes.
here. But how do you
It's my
prove it to
official
anyone else?
document,
Yes.
right?
But that's why it has to be in writing and everything has to be executed. But along with all this stuff that's going on with title now is we have fraudulent sellers, people representing themselves as the rightful sellers, both by recording fake deeds or by simply creating identity theft. And we've seen fake IDs, all kinds of things. They're getting very creative in ways to essentially try to steal your property.
It says official on it. It's officially fake on the ID, just so you know.
And here is
These
something
fake
else.
IDs look good. I mean, they look really, really good. They can put any name
Yes.
on it.
Well, that's
The
why you
photo.
need. You have to scan it. You have two different versions of a scanner. So you go to a nightclub and you can check. You can get one of those devices and you can check the ID.
To actually scan the ID, the
Yeah, scan
barcode,
it,
or
yeah.
the thing. Yeah. I'm
There's
surprised
so
title
many-
companies don't have those.
Well,
really.
so title companies obviously are getting paying more and more, the good ones, paying more and more attention to all of the details. And especially, one very simple thing that Insured Title Agency has instituted is we do not allow the seller to bring his or her own notary to the transaction.
Well, that's weird anyway. Why would
yeah.
someone do that?
Well, okay, because here's here's the scenario and how it plays out. A seller selling a property signs a couple of things. They sign the deed. There's maybe acknowledge the payoff statement. It's not as much paperwork as a buyer that's purchasing with a loan. So the buyer typically wants to come to the office and ask all the questions because they're signing like an entire huge stack of paper. Well, the seller oftentimes just has a very small packet, and so it is within acceptable practice to email that packet to that potential seller. They could print it at home. They could go to their bank. You can go to a UPS store and have something
You go to
notarized.
Leo, I'm sure he's a notary.
I'm not a notary. Everyone in the office is a notary but me because I can't notarize my own stuff.
Makes sense. But it is an entirely acceptable practice that you could go to a notary and have it notarized. And then we give a shipping label. You send everything back overnight. We have the original wet ink documents that are notarized. Well, if you can fake all these other things, you can certainly fake a notary seal, you can fake a signature. And so in one simple way, in our transactions, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We will assign the notary. Therefore, we know we're going through a reputable service. We know that we've contracted the services of this person and reviewed their credentials.
How do you think that helps stop fraud?
Well, because the easiest thing to do, so Matt Cox is another criminal that was operating in the early 2000s. He was arrested by the Secret Service for $25 million worth of fraud, both title fraud, mortgage fraud, all of the real estate frauds. He did a little bit of everything. And he had a fake notary stamp. Like he made up fake people by going to Social Security and saying, my baby was born at home and not at the hospital, but the baby's sick, so I can't bring it, and I need a Social Security card for this non-existent infant. And and this is in the early 2000s, before everything was digital.
Man, he's so smart. He could have just done anything else, probably.
I've heard that comment
And
before.
the thing is, it only takes 4 hours to get a notary stamp. So I mean, it's
Right.
like you could legitimately get a notary. You don't have.
It's not that hard at all. It's
4 hours of 1 4 hour course, and you wait 2 weeks for your stamp to come in the mail.
But it shouldn't fall to the notary to be responsible. Like they have a low threshold of, if I'm a notary, which actually I am, and someone presents me with a driver's license, am I like an FBI agent that's an expert in how to identify a fake ID?
No.
I am not.
Normally you're looking
if
for
the
the name and
face
the person.
and the picture and the information and the name matches, like what high level scrutiny there's not a requirement for that. Like, you're required to watch them sign with a pen in front of you and present an identification. That's it.
That matches the name in the photo.
Correct. So all of these things are happening, but I'm not here to be like completely doomsday. Like, now everyone's like,
I will tell you, I signed up for that service, that alert
Okay.
service
Yes.
after our last show, so let's mention that again.
Yes, absolutely.
And I got an alert about the notice of commencement when I started to do my pool. So that it's for anything.
see,
So,
proof it works.
so then let's give that out real quick again before we wrap up the show, because it's really valuable information.
Okay.
I want to leave you with something good.
Property fraud alert. So basically just Google property fraud alert. It's almost every county here in Florida is participating, even states in other parts of the country. The best way to do it is either Google property fraud alert or go to our Instagram page at Insured Title Agency. And I just did a video on exactly step-by-step what to do. You enroll either your personal name or your business name, however you hold title of your property, and you will get a text alert if anything is recorded against your property. So like for Katrina, she pulled a notice of commencement to do the pool. She got a text. Knowledge is power. So it's a free service.
Reach out and we'll get you the information. Thanks for joining us today. Have a good one.